Hi there, everyone. This is Leah from the Race Center and Tyler from the Recreation Department. And we are out here today to talk about stick season and a lot more.
That's right. And actually right over there, you can see our little frost pocket that we visited last week, and it's still frosty over there. But over here in the sun, the frost has gone away. But all these leaves that had been on these trees around here have fallen to the forest floor, and they do some really important work. And it's actually super fascinating. When we were talking about the frost, it mentioned that there were no clouds on those nights when the radiational cooling happens and the frost forms, and there's no blanket layer of clouds. These leaves that have fallen onto the forest floor here do some really important work in the form of a blanket for what is happening below and right here at the surface. So I've taken this shovel. So let's see if we can put this up here. Okay. So down below the surface here, you can see there are a couple different layers. Right at the top here, we have these leaves that look largely like they did when they had recently fallen off the trees. But if you dig down just a little bit, then they start to deteriorate a little bit, and you may even find leaf skeletons. So just the vascular structure of the leaves with all of the the stuff in between all eaten away. And a lot of that work is done by detritivores. Amazing, isn't it? So detritivores are organisms that eat the detritus, the things that fall to the forest floor, being leaves, sticks, bark, feathers, pieces of animals. And so they take many different forms, and among them are some pretty amazing creatures. One classification of which are known as tardigrades. And they were first discovered by a German scientist who called them Kleine Wasserbär, which means little water bear. And I highly recommend you look them up, because they do look like these 6 or 8-legged, one-eyed polar bears that live in the leaf litter here. And they eat creatures that are smaller than themselves, and some of this decomposing material. There's bacteria and fungi that are part of this process. Lots of nematodes and insects and millipedes and centipedes you're likely to find in this layer. And so this layer here, where the organic material is up on top, this is known as the O horizon, the organic horizon. Oh, look, there's another addition. And then down below this, you get into more of where it's broken down a bit more into the mineral layers, into the humus where it's been broken down. But these, I'm gonna replace this here, try and cover that up, put that blanket back on there, because these leaves and the detritus does a really important job that you might not suspect, but actually the leaves being here on the surface help prevent, they help the soil retain moisture. And they do that in a couple different ways. And one is that when raindrops hit the leaves here, it prevents that water from taking the small bits of soil, the silt, clay, and sand, and mechanically, just by that big heavy dropping force, moving those smaller soils around. And when the rain is able to do that, when this is exposed, then those small bits of mineral material fill in pores in the soil. And so, typically there are air pockets and there's space in the soil. But if those spaces get filled up with those small particles of sand and clay, then the soil can't retain moisture in the same way. And so then water that lands here is more likely, instead of infiltrating down and percolating through all those little pockets and holes into the soil, it's going to hit a roadblock, and then you will get cross surface flow. So the water will go downhill, and much more likely to experience big erosion events and things like that. So that's why when there's a big forest fire and a lot of this stuff gets burned up and disappears, you're much more likely to experience mudslides and things like that. But then the other way is that the moisture that is here stays here because it has this cover. So the moisture that's down in the soil is more likely to stay and won't just disappear up into the atmosphere. So this blanket of leaves is doing all sorts of important work, and the detritivores, and those little water bears, there's another one called a rotifer, and they are the rotifer refers to like a wheel-like motion, and they are these really cool organisms that have this like hairy corona, this crown of little cilia, little hairs, and when you view them under a microscope, it looks like they are wheels spinning, or spinning this way actually, and so they're collecting things in their environment and just like paddle wheeling them into the digestive part of their body. And so they are in here too. All sorts of really cool stuff here in these leaves. So, some people, especially around here, it's like, stick season, the leaves have dropped, no more amazing colors to see when you look at the mountainsides. And, ski season isn't here yet, the winter, the snow possibilities, but don't despair, because there is so much going on right here. And you get to see into the woods now. And it's a really exciting time to look around on a grand scale, but also on a microscopic scale. So next time, we are going to circle back, because there's that one song by that guy with the glasses and the lions. So we started this series talking about mushrooms and kind of generally how to identify them. But next time we meet, we'll talk a little bit more about what is happening below the surface before those fruiting bodies appear.
Because soil science is pretty fun.
Yeah.
Thank you.